And now I'll turn on my volume. Oh, don't you hate that? I hate it more than anything. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. I'm the teacher. We're here in the classroom, and we are here in the critical thinking classroom. So it sounds better now than the second time around anyway. And so what did I say? I said, yeah, we started, we're starting 10 minutes late. I need my full lunch is what I said. That's what you didn't hear. But we need to get through Erickson's stages. That's what I said. That's what you didn't hear either. Summed up pretty quickly. Let's move it. So we can get through these stages. So where do our attitudes come from? We're not going to, maybe we'll find that out today. We're going to talk a little bit about it. But what I want you to do is, as long as we're proposing the question, and we haven't done the deep dive into this, of course, because we haven't finished with Erickson's stages yet. And that means we really haven't talked about defense mechanisms. But this is what, so those were this topic, the last two topics as well. Let's just get our minds around that as we critically think and digest this information. Why? What I mean is why do we want to wrap our brains around these last three topics now, or today's topic and then the last two topics? Well, number one is because we're still going to finish with two topics ago. So we're like, well, what are we doing on this topic if we're not done with that one? I like to bait you guys. I like to, go this way towards the topic. That's what I like to do, because I didn't used to do those things in front of my class, but I'm here by myself and got to keep the sanity. How am I doing? So I want to show you that there really is a flow to what we're talking about here. How are we getting to attitudes? And so that's what I would like you to think. So the topic 2 topics ago was Erickson's psychosocial stages of development. Okay? What in the world? Let me just see something here. Okay, I don't know what was going on there. But now it's got me thinking what was going on there. That's okay. I've got the asset checklist here too, so that's good. I don't understand sometimes why I end up with lost files here. It doesn't make any sense to me. We should be able to see the asset checklist here. What's it doing there? Okay. So what have we been doing? We're looking at Erickson's psychosocial stages of development. What do I want you to do, and what does it have to do with attitudes? It's a little scattered today, I know. Bookless classroom wasn't a whole lot better. I don't know why. I feel really good today about being here. I really do. I really do. I really enjoy this a lot. I just wish I was just today. I feel a little less organized. And the other day, I feel like I was way more organized than I felt like I should have been the other day. Who even knows? I didn't have my coffee, and that was a problem. We've got the solution. Get on with it, Annette. You're losing interest. Okay. So Erickson's, I'm not going to go over where we've been in these components. You're going to end up looking either through last day number 36 or day number 35. I really give you a really good explanation of what we've got going on here. We are on now conflict number 3 is where we left off. Conflict number 3 there. So that is initiative versus guilt. So we went through number 1 and number 2 pretty thoroughly. We haven't done number 3. We started by mentioning the age range here. And what you are beginning to find out is in ages 3 through 6, we are just starting school, and we are likely starting preschool is what we are doing. We talked about in autonomy versus shame and doubt. The key here was, what are we doing at each one of these age ranges? 1 to 3 were potty training. And here we have a concept of whether or not we are good or bad as it relates to a natural function, something that is part of my biology that I can't help. This also might be an age likely where if we are introducing concepts like sexual identity, sexual dysmorphism, if we're beginning to, and I'm using those big words there on purpose, because if you don't know what they are, you don't need to be introduced to them. There is a time and a place to be introducing them, and it's not likely the ages of 1 and 3. Could I, through sexual confusion, make you feel guilty and ashamed about being a boy? Could I, by introducing sexual confusion, make you feel guilty and ashamed about being a girl? Yes. Could I introduce to you guilt and shame at that age about feeling guilty about arousal? I could introduce those things at those ages. Do you see how there are biological functions that we will have that may be appropriate at that age? Potty training. And may not be appropriate at that age. Sexual identity. That can lead to, if we are not at the right conflict stage, we're over here as a parent dealing with conflict stage identity versus role confusion, confusing our kids at ages 1 and 3 when they are not developmentally ready for it. Now, I want you to stop and think about that. As a teen, we're talking to teens here. What does that mean to be developmentally ready for something? I'm talking to teens here. What does it mean to be developmentally ready for something? It means your body is physically ready for it, right? You have a mental understanding or maturity to understand that. You have an emotional maturity that goes along with it. You're not going to be damaged by it because it was so confusing for you, which makes you fearful. The situation can be terrifying for you if it is so unusual for you, right? So, maturing, what are we talking about there? We're talking about a physical maturity. We're talking about an intellectual maturity. We're talking about emotional maturity, and all of that feeds into a healthy spirit. So a spiritual maturity as well. We can't always have that maturity at any age. We don't have that maturity at any age. At stage 2 here, at stage 2, we are battling the conflict. There is are my bodily urges, is it okay? It doesn't mean I don't control them. It just means I'm not a bad person when I have to go to the potty. It just means I'm not a bad person when I act like a girl. It just means I'm not a bad person when I act like a boy. It just means I'm not a bad person. So in stage 3 there, the conflict at stage 3, where we are identifying now behaviors, not our bodies, not our bodily drives to go to the bathroom, right? To, entertain ourselves physically with ourselves, right? No, we're not talking about that now. In stage 3, we're talking about this kind of identity that we have. Good, am I a good person? Is my personality. So preschool, I'm beginning to see that your family doesn't follow the same rules my family does. Oh my gosh, did you hear that boy talk back to his mother? Or why doesn't he scream and cry when he wants something? Like I do in my family, right? We're beginning to compare ourselves. It is the beginning of comparison. Preschool age, just starting school, and we're like this, all wide-eyed, right? We're all like, what? Oh, what? Oh, look at her. Oh, what's she wear? Oh my God. Oh, school. Oh my gosh. Oh, what? Look at her writing. She could draw. Oh my gosh. Look at her dress. Oh my gosh. Look at his shoes. He's so cool. Look at his haircut. Oh my gosh. Wide-eyed, looking at everything and going, that's me. That's not me. That's me. That's not me. He does that. I don't do that. He does that. I do that. He's better at it. I'm not so good. Good girl, bad girl. Good boy, bad boy. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're discovering people who are like us and who are different. We're doing a comparison. And in the end, when we do that comparison at 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 years of age, do I feel guilty? Because I don't have the talent? Because I'm not as smart? Because I don't act like a boy? Because I don't act like a girl? Or do I take the initiative? Hey, Charlie, how come you are wearing those cool shoes? Hi, Jennifer. I was wondering who did your hair today? Hi, Eileen. I was wondering how you learned to color like that. Hi, teacher. I was wondering if you could help me with my alphabet. So, or are we embarrassed? Oh my gosh, I can't ask for help with the alphabet because Kenny already knows his alphabet and I don't. See how it then changes us so that we don't take the chance, so we don't take the initiative, and so we don't learn grit. We don't learn to overcome. We don't learn that the world might be a friendly place. We don't learn a lot of things. We don't learn a lot of things if we are afraid to take a chance. What does it mean to take initiative? It means to take a chance. And when we take a chance, there's always a chance to fail. And so are we willing to take the chance the initiative on the chance that we could fail. And when we fail, because we will, do you feel guilty and then you no longer take a chance? Or do you get back up, dust yourself off, fix your hair pretty again, and get moving? What do you do? What do you do? And it's not written in stone. Today at 10 or 12 or 15 or 4 or 5, maybe you don't dust yourself so easy. Maybe you don't dust yourself off so easy. Maybe you look to somebody else to give you a compliment or to make you feel better. And we can do that in all kinds of ways. But what we're trying to do is learn to dust ourselves off, to get up and dust ourselves off. Why? Because that's initiative. That's initiative. What happens, again, if we are successful? So there's the age range, 3 to 6 years old when we have the conflict. We are relying on family members because they are our comparison group for what is good or what is normal. And when we don't, and when we compare ourselves, what are we looking for? Good girl, bad girl. So good boy, bad boy. We are walking away with what is the virtue, morals. Now, if I am successful, I do know what is good. Nobody has to tell me that when I am coloring, I'm being a good girl. And nobody has to tell me that when I talk in the classroom out loud, that I am being a bad boy, right? However you want to say it, misbehaving. You're not bad forever. That behavior is, right? And we can call it what it is. It's misbehaving. It's not behaving, it's misbehaving. Your behavior is not what it's supposed to be. It's misbehaving. So you're learning how to behave. You're learning morals. Okay, let's look at the next conflict so that we can truly begin to move on as we said we were going to. Okay, so the next one, ages. We always looked at the age range. I look at the age range first. It tells me what is going on. All right, now I really am learning my skills. At age 3 to 6, in the stage initiative versus guilt, I don't really know. I sort of the first time that my eyes are open and I'm seeing different people. But now I'm in the groove. From 6 to 12. I know what's expected. I know who runs fast. I know who's smart. I know who talks a lot in class. I know who gets themselves in trouble. I know who the teacher likes. I know who the teacher's pets are. I know who the teacher doesn't like. I know all those things, and I know where I fit in. Now, how do I feel about it? So our comparison group, remember, in the middle there, it's our social group. It is the relationship we are dependent on. And from ages 6 to 12, we're dependent on our school peers, a same age group. We're making friends with people who are our age. And we're saying we are part of this group, but not that group. But it's okay. It's okay. Or it's not okay. I'm part of this group and not that group, and it's not okay. It's not okay that I'm a nerd, or it's not okay that I'm not athletic, or it's not okay that I'm not smart, or it's not okay that I still don't know how to, pack my own lunch, make my own bed like my friends do. Whatever it is, have my own phone. I feel, what's the conflict? What's the conflict there? I feel inferior. So, do you feel like you are industrious? I am. I may not be talented as an athlete, but I can play the guitar. And man, do the chicks love a guy who plays the guitar. Or I may not have made the gymnastics team, right? But I am a great colorer, and someday I hope to be an artist, and I love everything that there has to do with art, right? Maybe that's your shtick that you've got going on. But are you feeling inadequate? Are you feeling like whatever that your shtick is, it's not good enough, inferior? Or are you feeling like industrious? Industrious means I could make something work. I could make it work. I could make my smarts work for me to go to college. I could make my music work for me. I could make my gift of gab work for me. I could make my reading skills work for me, right? Industry. I can get my skills to work for me. Industry. Okay. And as I said, how do we figure that out? When we get our peer group from ages 6 to 12, we're looking at our school group, although we see peers from 12 to 20 over there. But we're going to talk about that because it's a little different from 12 to 20, a little bit different, right? Because in 6 to 12, we're learning about our skills. Let's move up to age 12 to 20. And we see that this is identity versus role confusion. Now we're finding out actually who we are. So what is my role in life? I'm beginning to decide that I have got purpose. And now I'm going to make commitments to these friends. And I'm going to get out of my box and ask this person out on a date, right? And I'm going to take a chance to find out who I am and what I'm best with. Now we're in our teen years, 6 to 12, middle school. And that's a lot of figuring out who I am and if I like you or not like you. But now I found the peers I like. And now you are part of my group. And this group has an identity. And that identity is we are liberal thinkers. We are freedom fighters. We are volunteers. We are mentors. We are environmentalists. We are, what are you? What are you? Right? Are you a gamer? Is that what you are? Is that because when we have to have these stages as being fulfilling. Otherwise, there is no ammunition. There is no gunpowder left to get us fighting through the rest of our stages up there. You've got to have some initiative. You've got to have some industry. So we look at the peer group there, and we look at the group there, the relationship that we're dependent on here, and the relationship we're dependent on are our peers. So same sex and opposite sex. We are beginning to figure out our roles, right? Because we are beginning to be attracted to people, right? So that helps us with our role. And now, are you all confused about your role because somebody said you were male or you weren't male, or somebody accidentally called you trans when you were or you weren't, or they called you his when you were her? That's your confusion. That's your confusion. I don't have to worry about it. That's your confusion. That's your role confusion. I don't have to worry about it. You can point your finger and say this or that. All right. You confuse me because you're confused. That's your role confusion. And parents, you can't be doing that to your kids. You are not their dependent relationship at this stage. Their peers are. They'll find out their identity, not through you. None of this really is your job with them finding out their identity. Nothing there says anything about identity other than the possibility of, if you want to say something about morals, helping their identity, right? But that was a family. That was the whole entire family, not the parents. So with identity parents really comes out, your job is really comes out of nurturing, and fathers, actually, an easy way to say it is rough and tumble play. You play with the kids, that's your job. Mom, your job is to nurture, to worry about their safety. And if you do those things, they will come into their own regarding their self. But your job as a parent is not to put the identity on the child. How about that? I've never said that before. And if your parents aren't listening, and we just have high school students here, let me say it again. You can say it to your parents, their job is not anywhere here at all. Their job is not to find your identity. Now, they can help you with your gifts and identify your gifts as they see your gifts, right? So they can help you become not so confused in your identity. But that really is the role of the peers, right? And if I do find out my identity, what is the virtue there? This is an amazing theory. The outcome of knowing your identity is loyal. I'm loyal to this group, or these ideas, because this group represents those ideas, and not so much that group. Loyalty. Okay. Intimacy versus isolation. From 20 to 30 years of age, we're finding the love of our life, our significant other, that is the dependent relationship that we have. And in that dependent relationship, we are finding intimacy. We are finding our lifelong partner during that age range, which means we have the capacity for real, mature love. The conflict is intimacy. Can I be vulnerable with the person to the point that I commit to them for the rest of my life? That's what intimacy is, right? They can, marriage or not, I commit to a partnership with that person because of the enduring, loving relationship that we have, because of the enduring love. Through thick and thin, we have mature love that keeps us together and binds us together. Marriage or not, a significant partner for my whole rest of my life. That's intimacy. That's intimacy. It's not a conversation that we've had and it's deep conversation and we share our lives for several years and then cut it off. Done. Ghost. Gaslight. That's not mature love. It's not intimacy. This is something I'm bound to you and your well-being for a lifetime. For a lifetime. That's what you should be ready for at that stage. To commit for a lifetime, not marriage, to make a commitment to somebody who's significant in your life forever. So, we can see here when we are successful, we end up having an intimate relationship. The virtue, love, is what we have. But when we are unsuccessful, we isolate. And this is something that people do whether or not they are in a relationship with a significant other. They isolate whether or not they are married. Remember that as we mature, we can still go through the motions. Remember what the big theory is here. The big overriding theory is I can tell where your trauma exists by your behavior being at one of these stages. You will get stuck. stuck there, and I can identify your behavior. Oh, you're acting like a 12-year-old. You're acting like a 7-year-old. You're acting like a 15-year-old, right? You're acting like a 20-year-old when you're 55. Now I know where the trauma occurred because you're stuck there. So I can go through the motions and still be married, right? So what is my identity? My identity is a married woman who is a mother and has children. But if I wasn't successful in really knowing who I am and feeling secure in my identity, I will not have intimacy. I will not be able to go on to the next level. I will not have generativity. I will not have integrity. I got stuck. So we know what that means now. When you get stuck at a stage, I will see your behavior as a certain age bracket. I will know where the trauma occurred, and I will know that even if you are married, you are isolated in that marriage. I know that even if you are married and have been married for a long time, that you will, and have a job and a career, you will be stagnant. You will feel like you cannot grow. I know that if you get stuck at ages 6 to 12, you will not have integrity. Now, integrity as defined by Erickson's psychosocial stages of development, it doesn't mean that you don't have integrity. It means that integrity there. So if we go through the rest of the stages and let's take a look at that. But let's get this point clear here. So we know where the trauma occurs because your behavior describes a certain age bracket. And even if you go through the motions and get married and have children and a family and a career, and you retire as a successful person, it doesn't mean you'll have the psychosocial virtues or outcomes of a healthy life and healthy lifestyle. Okay? So important, this theory, because I can identify the age group. And if I can identify the age group, I can identify the conflict that you missed. And if I identify the conflict that you missed, I kind of know what happened. Now, I'm going to say it again as I've said it 1,000 times. You know, most of this is sexual abuse. If you get stuck at an age, and anyone can get sexually abused, yes, as young as a child, an infant, as young as 6 months old, and maybe even younger, you can be sexually abused. Yes, you can. Most of this stagnation occurs with sexual abuse. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about how difficult it is and how many men I think are really have experienced sexual abuse from one form or another, where you have had a sexual encounter that you weren't ready for, physically, spiritually, emotionally, or intellectually. You weren't prepared for it, and it made the sex scene very scary for you. So when we have stagnation, most of the time it has to do with sexual abuse. Now we know where the sexual abuse occurred. Okay. If you have real stagnation, right? If you have real deep, if you feel like you have real. So I had somebody say, well, guy's not going to talk to you about that. Well, here's the thing about it. You don't have to. And nobody wants to know the details, right? There have been intimate people in my life that I have cared about, that I know have had sexual abuse, that wouldn't talk to me about it. I know about it. Nobody's asking for the details. It is in just the confession. It just is in the confession of the words. I was sexually abused by my father. I was sexually abused by my older brother. I was sexually abused by my uncle. I was sexually abused by my sister. I was held down by my aunt the first time. And even that is more information, you'd be surprised, than is needed to have that relief. Nobody's asking for the details. If you want to tell the details, there's probably somebody who would listen. But to be honest, nobody wants to know the details. You don't want to tell them, and people don't want to know the details, but it has to be said to an understanding ear. And I know when it's been said to somebody who has an understanding ear, and I know when it hasn't been, because you get stuck. You'll get stuck. So what an unbelievable theory. And for you, even in your own journey of finding out what's going on, identify the age bracket for your behavior. And then you could start doing some searching and remember that it is not necessary to pull up the entire memory. That's it. You don't have to remember the details. You have to go, holy shit, that happened. And you likely have to say it to somebody that you love and trust. And even then, there's no guarantees for that person. Once Pandora's box is open, you can't get that confession back in. Right? And so the fallout is going to be part of your journey. Right? I asked a guy yesterday, was it worth it? Like, that person who damaged you, and then you made all those choices afterwards. So the person took two things from you at least. Right? Took your trust, and then took a future family away from you. Two things. You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out. How do you go through life with that same thing bothering you from 19 or 20 or 25? How do you go through life with that same thing affecting you 20 years later? Right? How do you make the decisions that are good for you when that same trauma is affecting you? You can't. You can't. You will become isolated. You will stagnate. You will feel despair. Hear me. You have to say it. No details. It will take a millisecond. It just might take just a millisecond to do. Okay, so role confusion. Are you confused? Do you feel like you have a purpose, but you're not on your journey like you're supposed to be? Well, you can feel that at between ages of 12 to 20 as you figure out your identity. But by age 20, if you still have role confusion, you need to figure out something about your trauma. Next stage, ages 20 to 30. Again, what are we doing? We said intimacy versus isolation, finding our significant other. Ages 30 to 65, we are solidifying our careers, typically, right? And so are we giving back? Do we have a legacy, generativity? Have we given something to the next generation? Or do we have nothing to give because what? Because our marriage failed, because our grandkids don't like us, because I have been isolated for years and I have never made a name for myself. Stagnation. And the last one is ages 65 and over. This is now we're retired, we're sitting back. Our significant relationship last time was the people in the workplace, but now it is just basically mankind. I am looking to the good of the universe. I'm getting close to that. I'm getting closer, as we all are, to that. I'm not quite there, but so this integrity? Do I look back on my life and say, yeah, it was good. I didn't, fail to do the things I enjoy. I didn't fail to have purpose in my journey. I didn't fail to spread love to my family, right? Those things. Or again, despair. Okay, so those are Erikson's psychosocial stages of development. Let's talk now about defense mechanisms. Here's the thing about this. What gets us sort of turned around? Well, it is the event. It is a traumatic event. But what we need to do is we need to begin to see the behaviors that are knocking us off track. Okay? And these, as we can see, even from Erikson's psychosocial stages of development, that they are not always easily recognizable. Those things that are knocking us off track. Even as psychologists, we don't go back to say that is third grade behavior. You likely had a trauma. Let's take a look at your behaviors from ages, 8 to 12, or your events in your life at ages around 6, 7, 8. Okay? If you're stuck in that era, right? Or that in that conflict zone. Okay? So we don't know. We don't ever take a look. I never took a look at that and made that connection between how you're acting and the trauma. So we can clearly see we are being affected by things in ways that we don't even notice. And that is, again, very Freudian theory, where we've got these drives that come from way back since we were a kid, and they are really the steering our journey. Those events from way back and the feelings that were derived from those events are steering the journey. And so we can see kind of there, it looks almost like the rudder underneath the iceberg there is what is not seen in ourselves. So this is the analogy, the example that Freud would give of how much of who we are and our personality is being driven by things that are unknown and cannot be seen. This really is an extraordinary theory because most people didn't know anything about this. Not even the fact that what I'm doing when I think about something is bringing it up from the deep and bringing it up all the way to the surface. Now, something like that seems really quite obvious, the way that we think. And when we think about memory, what do? We go and we bring something out of memory so it becomes a conscious thought. But we didn't describe it. It wasn't described. And then, if it were described, where's the studies? Here's a description of how unconscious works. Great description. Most of it underneath the water there, right? Just a little bit of it visible right there. That's it. What a great description. Now prove it. Now prove that I've got this much unconscious that I'm not aware of. And this very, very little I am. And what's this part right here? What is this sort of disturbed area right here? This disturbed area right here. What is that? What is this disturbed water area right there? I had to get the 10 minutes to get the finger right. What's that? Preconscious. That is pulling up from the depths to consciousness. When we are acting like a 3-year-old, we are driven by things we aren't aware of that are right down here in the unconscious. When we take risky behaviors, engage in risky behaviors that we know can hurt us, but we still do it for the excitement, that's a drive that comes from here. It comes from here, and then it bubbles up when I see what? A bungee jump or something like that, some way I could just, sort of risk my life. And then it comes into full thought as I buy the ticket to go to bungee jump, right? Okay. So when we fail to take initiative, defend ourselves, when we're embarrassed about things that are just a part of our biology, like about our looks or about the way that we're built, when we feel ashamed of who we are, our unconscious, all that stuff that is below that surface, bubbles up to the preconscious level and becomes behavior. So what are those attitudes that are an outcome of these conflicts, a negative outcome of the conflict? What happens to us when we experience through our life mistrust, shame and doubt, guilt, inferiority, role confusion, isolation, stagnation, and despair? What are the processes that we are going through that come up from the unconscious, boil into the preconscious, and becomes conscious thought and real behaviors? Well, in a person that suffers from those things I described, from despair, from inferiority, from guilt and shame, from role confusion, they have to protect their ego. They have to protect their pride. They're going under. They're feeling despair and isolation and confused and shame. They're going under. So what do they have to do? What has to boil up there in order for an individual to become healthy again? Well, what ends up boiling up are defense mechanisms. If I feel despair, I might want to rationalize what my despair is all about. I might want to, I was just looking there. Oh, I'm surprised I don't have those defense mechanisms there. I know I had them. I might want to project and blame somebody else. I might feel like I need to rationalize what I am doing. I have a feeling what I ended up doing was saving over these slides. I did. No, I didn't. Where are those slides then? I'm looking for these slides that I know that I put together for this. I just can't believe it. Okay. All right. I want to get a few other, I'm sorry about that. I want to get a few other of these defense mechanisms up there. And I thought that I had them up there. I know, I recall redoing those slides, all of those slides, all of them. What happened to them? Every single one of them was redone. I just can't believe I don't have them. Staff, I keep telling you, stop confusing these PowerPoints. Why is it that I have to, if I want something done, I just have to do it myself? What is up with that? So let me get some of those together. Let me, before I pull the plug on this for a second. I know what happened. I had to have had that. I didn't have that open for, ugh. I act like I think I know what happened. I don't know what happened. But I'm kind of bothered by it. Oh, there was some work there on those slides. I'm sure I opened up some of them. I don't know. All right, you don't need to sit over here and think about it with me. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. I'm sorry that I did not have the extra slides to go into this, but let me wrap this up with our topic here. So our topic today is defense. No, that was supposed to be day 37. There we go. Where do our attitudes come from? And so some of our attitudes are coming from this feeling of, well, all of those outcomes that we talked about from Erickson's psychosocial stages of development, but then also from these feelings of defensiveness. If, again, I end up having those feelings of despair, guilt, shame, doubt, isolation, they will end up turning into a defensive way that I react to everything, and then that reinforces my attitudes. All right? We're going to keep going a little bit deeper into attitudes and where those attitudes are really being developed. But this is a good start for us. So this is Dr. Annette Feravich. I'm the teacher. I have to get those slides together because I know what I did. I saved over it today is what I did. I don't know how I had those slides and I don't have them anymore. Yeah, that's not true. I don't know what I did. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. I'm the teacher. We're here in the classroom. This is the critical thinking classroom. I hope I'm giving you something to think about. This classroom is about finding out who you are from the very beginning to the end. Critical thinking classroom is finding out about the self, the self. So if you want to start from square one, go to day one. Everything is about the self in this critical thinking classroom. Thanks for joining me. We will be back here tomorrow with more about attitudes. Thanks.